Dear younger me,
Today's letters I'd send back is special. I have a guest who reflects on the changes in her life and how they've helped shape the person she is today. Her honesty is refreshing, and I hope you enjoy this chat as much as I did. So, we're going to start out. We're old college buddies. We were roommates in college. This is my friend Jennifer. And um, she had a letter that she wanted to share, and it comes with a story, a backstory. And you mentioned that it started about 6 years ago. Um, if you think back, what kind of person or what kind of woman were you 6 years ago?
yeah, if I think back 6 to 10 years ago, um, I was very busy, very much living a ministry life and family life. And I was just very comfortable in the place where God had us, even though it was very challenging. But I think I was at that time felt sure, that I was pleasing God because I was following a lot of things that had been very important to me up to that time, and that I really felt was kind of the right way to do things. And so I felt confident in that and felt very affirmed in that by other people in my life at the time. And so, but my heart always was really, to please God, to follow God, and my husband's heart as well. But yes, if I look back, that's kind of how I see myself, following a road that would have been pretty predictable to me at the outset, like say when I was in college, when we were friends. You were my roommate our freshman year. And so you were one of the very first people I met at college. But back at that time, if somebody had asked me, what do you think your future is going to look like? I think it would have been pretty predictable as far as the path that we had gone down up to that point about between 6 to 10 years ago.
What kind of events and things kind of led up to what you wish you had known back then?
I don't typically watch videos on social media. So I had been watching your videos, and then I thought, what would I like to say to my younger self? What began to happen in our lives about 8 years ago now was just some rumblings of change from very unexpected directions, and the beginning of us having to really discern, was this God changing us in these ways, or were we just going off on some kind of really weird rabbit trail after all the years of just following a very predictable path in life for us? But like I said, we both had a heart to please God. We both also, though, are firstborn children. And very often a trait of a firstborn is being a pleaser, just really seeking for that affirmation from others. And so we both also had that trait, and God began to challenge us in that. Here comes some changes, and other people aren't going to necessarily understand. And in fact, they didn't understand. And while you are going through some really tough changes, you're going to have to just seek me alone. This is God was teaching us this, and not look to others in your life to affirm you that you're doing something great or that you're doing the right thing. And that began about 8 years ago. The first change was a little bit of a doctrinal change that pulled us away from the ministry where we had been for almost 20 years, where we had raised our kids up to that point, and we were heavily invested and loved it, loved it there. And so that was a tough, very tough, discerning the voice of God. Like, is this you? Searching the scriptures and praying and just not knowing where to turn really, except to each other and to the Lord. So that was the beginning of it. And we did make that change. It was very tough. But we grew through it so much. And after that, there were a series of other very unexpected changes. Again, the same lessons and the same surprises, just these big surprises coming at us. Like I've said, when you follow God, you're going to be surprised. But even when you expect to be surprised, you're still surprised. Yeah. You can't really anticipate what he's going to do, because he's just so much bigger than my ideas and my box that I feel so comfortable in.
What changes were going on?
So we ended up making the change to leave that ministry, like I said, and it was very wrapped up with family, and so it was hard. And our roots in that area were very, very deep. But as part of that change, we also moved away from the area where we had lived for 20 years, pretty much our entire married life, and came to Illinois, where we live now, and started over basically from scratch. We lived on the East Coast. We moved to the Midwest. It's just different. And we had a lot of adjustments to make. Steve was out of the ministry and began to be employed working with my father, and me as well, working with him in a very unusual Bible science research. And again, it was like, Lord, is this you? I mean, this is going to be a hard path. We know it is. We don't want to do it if we're not sure that it's you. Well, I should say we have 8 children God had blessed us with during those years. One had already gone to college, but then after we moved, we had 2 more leave and go to college. We had 2 more kids get married, and eventually we had our first grandchild born. And those are all big changes and stages of life, just in the middle of us trying to get used to all the new things that God was doing in our lives. Eventually, Steve did go back in the ministry part-time as the lead main pastor, or the pastor, I should say, which all those years in Virginia, he was always the assistant pastor. So that was a big change, and we didn't expect that. Our church had been looking for a pastor for a year, and we were praying for God to send the right person, and we were just carrying on with the work we were doing until one day God just dropped it in my husband's lap that, you know what, you are the man for this job. You're the man that you've been praying for, right? So, and God gave him a lot of joy and confidence in that. But once again, it was a big change that we didn't expect. And then the very last of the big changes, we had always homeschooled our kids. And I had done that for 19 years. I had graduated 3 kids from homeschool. And 2 years ago, God began a series of schooling changes for our family. As a Christian mom, I would homeschool, and I enjoyed it. But God just began to show us piece by piece that season was coming to an end. Now, this is where I might need my tissue. We sought the Lord, we prayed, we, searched the scriptures, we talked, and finally we did make the changes that God was leading us into. And currently, I'm not homeschooling any of the kids this year. So, and I see God's hand in it. And once again, I see that we're growing in it. Again, I was very surprised, and I maybe spent too much time, worrying and being afraid that this wasn't actually God leading us, and that we were going a direction that would be the wrong choice, for our family. So those are all the changes that led up to the letter that I wrote.
So it sounds like you had quite a few lessons, mostly about trusting God, relying on God, and letting him lead you, and kind of giving up that control to him, right?
Yes, I did learn to see myself as a very wanting the control, wanting to steer the ship. And sorry, but that wasn't part of the plan, so we won't be doing that, so I had to learn that, okay, you're going to have to let go in some of these areas and know that if your heart is 100% to seek the Lord, that he's big enough to guide you through these very unfamiliar waters to you. And he sees the end from the beginning, and I don't. And I just had to learn over and over again how much bigger God is than our conception, our mindset, our ideas about, our doctrines or whatever that we are so sure of. And he just has a way of pulling us, as C.S. Lewis said, further up and further in to know him more and more.
So all these changes in your life and changes around you, how do you think they changed you as a person?
I think that I am probably more compassionate now for things that people go through that don't make sense to me, that I see somebody making a decision and I've, in the past would have thought, I would have been so critical. I would have thought, obviously, that's not the right decision. Why are they doing that? So God taught me, humbled me really to realize that I don't know everything that people are dealing with, and those, surrounding us in all the decisions that we made that I talked through there, most of our family and friends did not really understand. The ones who were able to still support us because they knew our heart, even though they didn't necessarily agree or they certainly didn't understand it, that meant the world. You don't forget those friends and those family members who are able to say, look, we're praying for you. We are 100% know you want to do God's will. We're proud of you. Even those were few, but that meant the world. And so it changed me to try to have that reaction to others and to have that compassion and to just see somebody's heart and not be so judgmental of choices that they may be making.
Yeah, it's special when you're going through a hard time and someone treats you in an unexpected but good way. And it kind
Yes.
of opens your eyes like, oh, wow, I haven't been doing that. And because I've had that same thing, I haven't been doing that. And I loved it when someone did that for me. And so
Yeah.
it's helps you to be like, okay, I need to be that way for other people because a lot of people are struggling and having a hard time by themselves. And then you know how it feels, the struggling and the compassion. It's like, oh, I need to do that too.
And sometimes we get tempted. We don't understand the changes someone's going through or, how God's leading them. And so we think, well, I just won't say anything. I'll just be quiet. But for the person who's making those hard choices, as we had been, the silent treatment doesn't do anything. It doesn't give them any encouragement. You may feel like, oh, I'm being so restrained because I'm just not saying anything. But really what that person needs is just a kind word, a loving word. I know this is tough and keep seeking God and we're praying for you and love you. That's all you got to say. You don't have to tell them you agree with every detail of their life, but yes, it's good for God to pull you out of your self-centered little world and realize that what other people might be facing sometimes.
So do you think uh, the person who you were in the past, whether it was your college version or the person from 10 years ago, how do you think she would have felt about who you are today?
Um, Honestly, I probably would have judged myself in some ways if I could have had a glimpse into the future. Um, but I think that I would have wanted to see that my heart had not changed. Outward things may have changed and life choices, for our family, whatever may have changed. But I think I would have been very encouraged to see that, we still 100% wanted to follow God. And there's no doubt I would have been very surprised. I mean, my husband and I have talked so many times, if we could have seen ourselves 15 years ago and where we are now, even where we live. And, some of the changes did come with kind of a grief, because things that you had envisioned for your family's future, like we lived in a farmhouse in Virginia. We did a ton of work to it. I was very bonded with it. Some ways it was kind of a love-hate relationship because it was a long path of renovations and everything, but it was a beautiful old place and I loved it. And when God pulled us away, I had to let go of that. And, part of my dreams at the time would have been, this is where we'll live and our kids will bring their girlfriends home from college and our grandkids will come here and visit, and this is going to be our home place, and that's not the plan that God had. And so some of it has been a grief, and definitely if I could have seen that way back, would have very much surprised me, although maybe prepared me too for the changes that were coming.
It's changed you. It's changed your family, I'm sure. What are some other transformations you think?
Other transformations would be just learning to persevere when God calls you to a hard work, that maybe you're not getting results. I think about like Jeremiah, and he preached and for years and years and didn't really see the results. He didn't see the change that he was trying to tell to Israel at the time. I hope I have all those details right. But that's the kind of work sometimes that it felt like God had called us into. And so just learning to just be faithful and keep going, even when it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere or feel like you're succeeding, because when you have that seeking for affirmation, seeking to please, you can be very success oriented. And to change that idea of success is being faithful in what God's called us to, not necessarily a whole bunch of outward things. So there was that. And, there's been a transformation too of God just taking us out more into the community, and allowing us as a family, because of our schooling changes and things, to just rub shoulders with a lot of different types of people, and seeing the gospel shining through in the most unexpected places, from the most unexpected people, and when you're in your little bubble or your little box that you're so comfortable in, you don't get to see that what, God's at work over here. Imagine that in a place you would never have thought. So again, he's pulled us out of our comfort zone and into a different sort of a life, but it's been very challenging and really just very good for all of us, is the truth, even though it's been so hard.
So do you think you're ready to read your letter?
Let me get my letter here. Dear younger me, you need to understand that changes will come in your future. Sometimes very big changes will come from the most unexpected directions. You need to be sure that your loyalty is not to a particular methodology or a particular place or a particular lifestyle. God is bigger than all of those things. Realize that there will be times he will pull you out of your comfort zone. And you can't even imagine what that will look like right now, but it will happen. Learn to know God more every day, to hear his voice, and to see his spirit at work, even in the most unlikely places. This will prepare you for those big changes when God works in ways that you never, ever expected. Enjoy where you are right now, but realize that false loyalties will only limit you. You are free in Christ, free to make changes when needed, wisely and bathed in prayer when God leads. Through every change, he faithful will remain.
Well, thank you. That's beautiful. Um, so one of my favorite memories of you, I mean, you've always been very smart, very talented, but I also remember that you were very loving and you love to give hugs. And so
Aw.
I always remember your hugs. You would like stab me in the neck with your shoulder. But
Aw.
but I loved your hugs and I love how loving you were. And I see how that comes across in your life and your family.
Oh, well, thank you.
So,
That's sweet.
um, and
I
I'm
Go
sure it
ahead.
comes across in your testimony as well.
Oh, thank you. Well, I hope so. And I do think God has given me, a compassionate, a relational, um, just personality makeup, and that has played in a big way in the work that God's called us to do. So He prepares us, for what He has for us in the future. I remember you were math and science, or just
Math and
math?
music.
Oh, math and music. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember you played the piano. That's right. So you were like a music minor. Yeah. But I remember thinking it was so cool that you were a math major, because I always liked things like math. And I do remember, I don't know if this is where all the hugs came from, but when I arrived there as a freshman, I was kind of looking for like a parent figure to like, I remember telling you, like the first time I went to dinner, I was like, I'm going to dinner. I'll probably be back at whatever time. I remember you trying not to laugh and trying not to smile at me because I just was trying to like reorient myself. Like I wasn't at home with my parents anymore. Like, who do I tell what I'm
Answer
doing?
to.
Right? And so,
Yeah.
and you were a senior, as I recall, I think.
Yeah.
Well, so you were kind of that, to me. So I don't know what if that was why I was giving so many hugs to you, but anyway, it's good memories.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a good time.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want people who watch to follow you on your social media or your website, how could they reach you?
Let's see. I will give two places online that you can find me. The first one's my personal blog, which I did kind of start that blog sort of at the beginning of a lot of the changes. And there were some times where I went silent on the blog for quite a while as I was just working through what God was doing in our lives. But I just share a lot on there about our family, about our life. It's called treasuringhome.com. And then my husband and I have a podcast that we do together as part of the Bible science research work that I mentioned. And the podcast is called The BC Messenger. And that shows kind of a summary of the work that we're doing. And we have 40. Our 40th episode is just getting ready to be released. So there's lots of content there to look at. And that, again, that's thebcmessenger.com.
Okay. I'll make sure I put the links in our description.
Yeah, thank you.
So, well, and I really appreciate you taking the time to reach out first and then, to have this conversation with me and be willing to share it with other people.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. I think it's really important and gives a perspective, as the years go on in life, and hopefully we become wiser. And I maybe this was God's timing, because everything that I shared with you here, I really haven't shared with many people, really, because sometimes when you're going through things, you just need a lot of time to process and think. And I just haven't talked about it much, but I feel like that this was God's kind of timing to open that door to begin to share the lessons we've learned and hopefully be a blessing and help to others.
Well, great. Thanks.
Thanks, Claudia. Great talking to you.
There were some deep lessons in that conversation. Learning to give up control, learning to trust God, to have compassion, to accept change. So many of life's lessons come from experiencing life. But don't we all wish that we had known them sooner? That's why Letters I'd Send Back exists, so that we can share the lessons that we've learned and hopefully somebody can get something out of them too. I want to thank Jennifer for being brave enough to be my very first guest. And I want to thank you also for watching all the way through to the end. I hope it helped you to see things a little bit differently and reminded you that everybody has a story that's worth hearing. Thanks again for being here, and until next time, I'll see you in the next letter.